Good morning. Once again, finished walking the dogs, got the Bon Jovi tea, and I'm just going to come on and I'm going to talk about registrars, information for photographers with regards to registrars, what you can do, what you can't do, things like that. This is also a little bit for brides, grooms, brides. There seems to be some confusion around England and Wales. Scotland has its own marriage laws, so that's completely different. But England and Wales has to follow the Marriage Act, and it has to follow the guidelines set out by the General Register Office, which is part of the Passport Office, which is part of the Home Office. And that follows the Marriage Act 1949. That's the legislation. There's also some issues around the Data Protection Act 2018, but that's a minor issue, really is. So let's get into it. Back in November 2022, so that's 3 years ago, I put a Freedom of Information request into the Passport and I asked a series of questions, and I'm going to go through those responses now. I've got my laptop and you probably can't see it. This is the document that I got back as an official response to my Freedom of Information. The reason I had to do it to the Passport Office is because, so believe it or not, registry officers are not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. So I can't put questions into them because a lot of them come back and say, we don't need to, we're not answering it. Some have replied to me in the past, the vast majority back off. So you think of different things. So question number 1, and I'm going to read the questions out in full and I'll paraphrase the answer. Question number 1, please provide details including specific legislation where appropriate on the use of photography during weddings conducted by registrars. This includes photography of the couple's witnesses signing the schedule when the schedule details are not visible or in capitals, as well as the wedding itself. I ask with specific regard to the information contained in the schedule and the wedding certificate being public information and carried out at a public event. There is no legislation which relates to photography during a wedding ceremony conducted by registration officials. There is no legislation around photography. Photography is not mentioned in the Marriage Act 1949. Where photographs of official documents are taken, this must be with the permission of those involved in order to comply with data protection laws. Absolutely fine. We'll cover that in a little bit. Question number 2. If there is nothing in law which prevents photography, why does the decision lie with the superintendent registrar to allow it or not? And this is a question that's often answered by registrars online by saying different registry offices have different rules. This is what it is. It is individuals deciding to interpret the rules as they see fit. The answer from the Passport Office: the superintendent must ensure the ceremony complies with the law, such as the correct documentation has been issued, the couple is entering into the ceremony freely, the ceremony is not religious in nature, and the required words of declaration and contract are spoken. It is up to the superintendent registrar to be satisfied that there is nothing that detracts from the solemn nature of that ceremony. Didn't answer the question, but it did. So photographers, if you were being an absolute arse and detracting from the solemnity of the service, the registrars have a complete legal right to stop it. Don't act like an arse, and they don't. We'll come back to this. But specifically, they can't stop you. Question number 3. Under what primary legislation does the guidance from the GRO handbook, that's the handbook from the General Registry Office, that is given to all registrars, all registry officers to conduct their training from, what legal powers do registrars have to stop the ceremony and prevent photography taking place if the solemnity of the marriage was in accordance with the Marriage Act 1949? So basically, if you were a photographer and you are standing in one place, at the back, at the side, wherever, clicking away, probably in the 21st century now using mirrorless on silent shutter, not moving about, not saying anything, there is nothing that the registrars can legally do to prevent you doing your job. And the answer to this is, we confirm this information is not held. They have nothing, they can't prevent you doing that. Question number 4. Please bear in mind that many weddings are now videoed professionally and many more semi-professionally by photographers, including voice recordings. As a result of the issues faced, and if the solemnity of the marriage was found to have been in keeping with the Marriage Act, should complaints be made directly to the local authority in the first instance or to yourself? So the answer to that, the local authority is responsible for the delivery of civil registration, and any complaints about the way the superintendent registrar has conducted the marriage should be made directly to the local authority concerned. In other words, they are marking their own homework. You can make a complaint to the local authority. The local authority will either uphold it or not. 99% of the time, the local authority will just say tough. Nothing will happen to that registrar at all. Question number 5. Notwithstanding the complaints process for local authorities re potential of abuse of authority / powers by registrars, is there a complaint process that yourselves would undertake in the form of an appeal process? Answer: we can confirm that there is not a complaint process for us to undertake in the form of appeal. And that tells me that registrars can act in any way they deem fit, regardless of whether it's within the law, regardless of whether it's morally right, because they are the final arbitrators. That is a worrying amount of power that they have over what should be a really loving service. Question number 6. This is a long question and I will read it in full. Photographers, videographers will almost 100% introduce themselves to registrars beforehand. If the registrars refuse to allow photography as per the issues raised in the context above, in short, if we refuse to comply with, for example, no photographs at all, or no photographs of signing the schedule, what legal grounds and under what legislation do registrars have for refusing to continue with the wedding or asking for the photographer to be removed? So there's a couple of issues around that question. Photographers are often told by registrars they can do this, this or this, you can stand there or there and you can do nothing else. You can't photograph this, you can't photograph that. This question is around what legislation and what powers do they have to stop you doing your job. And this applies to videographers as well, by the way. Answer: there is no legislation which relates to photography during a wedding ceremony conducted by registration officials. Pause for dramatic effect. The superintendent registrar could refuse to continue if there is something which prevents the legal requirements being complied with, or if anything detracts from the solemn nature of the ceremony. So you, as a photographer, go to the back of the aisle and you start taking photographs in real time of signing the schedule. That's absolutely fine. The registrars cannot stop you. If you act like an arse and you shove your camera over the top and into the faces of the couple or the witnesses or the registrars as they're signing, absolutely they will stop you. They have a right to stop you because you're acting an arse. Okay? Question number 7. Please send me an up-to-date copy of the full guidance handbook as mentioned in question 2. That's the General Registry Office guidance, or a URL where it can be viewed or downloaded. Answer: I'm able to disclose the sections of the marriage handbook relating to photographs during marriage ceremonies below. So I didn't get a copy of that handbook in full. Marriage handbook, section 3.2, marriage ceremonies state: photographs during ceremonies. Point 11. Recording of their special day by the couple and guest is a popular request at ceremonies. There is nothing in law which prevents photographs being taken at any part of the proceedings. However, the decision lies with the superintendent registrar. Time out. It keeps coming back to whatever the superintendent registrar decides they want to do in their particular registry office. That cannot be right. Point 12. Superintendent registrars should discuss any photography request with the couple prior to the ceremony to ensure they understand that any recordings or photography must not undermine the solemnity or dignity of the occasion or disrupt any of the proceedings. Question for my couples watching this who have been married: did they have that conversation, or was the conversation about, do you want your guest to take photographs during the service? And I will bet it's the latter, not the former. Point 13. From 4th of May 2021, marriage register books will no longer be valid documents and cannot be used as props for photographs. It's fine, we move from registration documents, certificates, to schedules now. Point 14. This is an important one. The couple may wish to have a photograph taken as they sign their marriage schedule. if all those whose details are recorded on the marriage schedule do not object to the photographs being taken. There is nothing in law which would prevent this. Should any of those details on the marriage schedule object, i.e. they do not wish their details appearing on social media, you may wish to consider whether a photograph may be possible without any of the details being visible. So a couple of points here. I'm at the back, I've got two grannies who are acting as the witnesses, and they are giggling like little schoolgirls and they're signing. And a registrar stands in front of me and starts pointing the finger because apparently I'm not allowed to take that photograph. I cannot see those details. That was in West Yorkshire. That's wrong. Absolutely wrong. And it's wrong according to their own documentation. Hence my bugbear with registrars and probably their superintendent registrars. So ultimately, if you are a couple getting married and you do not want your guests to take photographs during the service, absolutely fine. I tell them that as well. I ask that question and I tell them that as a bit of an introduction to me, links to wherever for the videos. And the registrars will also confirm that. If you want live photographs taken as your parents, your witnesses, your nanas, your grannies, granddads, whoever, sign the schedule. Photographers and videographers are going to do it really respectfully from the back because it's a great shot, especially for those two grannies. Just tell the registrars, simple as that. But to all of those registrars out there saying we all have different rules, you don't. You have people in charge who decide that they wish to abuse the powers they have to put different rules in place. And that's the superintendent registrar. That copy, that documentation that I've just done, I'll make it freely available via my website. Drop me an email, send me a PM, whatever you want, and I will make sure you get it.